You think your relationship is safe, solid, unshakable. You've been together long enough that the thrill is gone, the chaos is over, and you've finally found peace. No more chasing, no more guessing, just comfort, stability. But then something shifts. Suddenly she's different. She picks fights over nothing. She questions your choices. One day she pulls away. The next day she clings. And you're standing there asking yourself, what happened to the woman who swore she loved me? Here's the part no one tells you. It's not random. It's not just her mood. It's not stress from work. It's something deeper. Something every man on this planet will face. Imagine walking through a minefield. You can't see the mines, but every wrong step could blow up everything you've built. That's exactly what's happening in your relationship. She's testing you, and not the cute little tests from the beginning. This is primal. This is her subconscious poking at your armor, searching for cracks, asking one question that decides everything. Are you really the man she thought you were? Or have you already gone soft? Most men fail. They don't even realize they're being tested. They confuse weakness with love. They call submission sacrifice. And every time they bend, every time they betray themselves to please her, they dig their own grave. If you've ever watched love turn into chaos overnight, stay with me until the end. Because once you see the truth, you'll never unsee it. And if this hits you already, smash that follow so you don't miss the rest. You thought the hardest part was behind you. The late nights, the endless texts, the thrill of chasing and wondering. And now you finally had what you wanted, a woman who chose you, who promised to love you. For a while, it felt like paradise. You let your guard down. You thought, I made it. But here's the hard truth. That moment of comfort is the beginning of the end. Comfort feels safe, but in reality, it's the slowest poison in any relationship. You don't notice it at first. You sip it daily without realizing it. And by the time you taste the bitterness, it's already spread through everything. One day, she doesn't look at you with admiration anymore. She looks at you with doubt. Her conscious mind doesn't plan it. She doesn't sit down and decide. I'll start testing him. No, it happens deep inside her biology. A primal voice whispers, is he still the man I thought he was? Or has he already softened? That's the moment it all changes. Not because of her. Not because of some outside threat, but because of you. Because you let comfort rob you of the edge that made her fall in the first place. In the beginning, you were unpredictable, a storm, a man with a mission, a direction, a life that didn't orbit around her. That energy pulled her in. She wanted to step into your world, not become the center of it. Now you've given her everything. Your time, your focus, your priorities. You call it love. You call it commitment. But to her subconscious, it doesn't feel like strength. It feels like weakness. And weakness is the death of attraction. Here's the line most men don't want to face if she can shake your frame. You never had one to begin with. Every man arrives at this crossroads, the point where love feels secure but something underneath is cracking, and most men don't realize it until it's too late. They wake up one day, blindsided, asking, what happened? I gave her everything. Why wasn't it enough? And the answer hits like a hammer because giving her everything was the problem. Think back to the start, the first weeks, maybe the first months. She wasn't testing you then. She wasn't pushing your buttons or questioning your every move. Why? Because in the beginning, you were a mystery. She couldn't read you fully. She couldn't predict you. You had sharp edges she couldn't quite hold on to. And that made you magnetic. You had your own life, your own priorities, your own schedule. You didn't drop everything the second she called. You didn't lose sleep if she didn't text back. You weren't bending your time to fit hers. You were in control of your own world. And that independence drew her in. She chased. She admired. She looked at you as the prize. But time changes things. Slowly, you started investing more, prioritizing her more, rearranging your life to make her feel secure. At first, she loved it. At first, it felt like devotion. But then her subconscious noticed the shift. The mystery faded. The unpredictability died. You became safe, predictable, attached. And when that happened, the questions started forming in her mind. A woman doesn't test when she's still falling for you. She tests once she feels she already has you. The very moment she senses the shift from independence to dependence, her subconscious flips a switch. It whispers, "Is this really the man I wanted, or did I choose wrong?" She'll never say that out loud. She might not even realize it consciously, but her biology will make her find out, because nature wired her to. For thousands of years, her survival depended on choosing a man who stayed strong under pressure. That wiring doesn't vanish just because modern life feels safer. That's why tests don't show up during the honeymoon phase. Back then, your unpredictability proved your strength. But once comfort set in, once attachment grew, once she felt you needed her more than she needed you, that's when the real game began. And make no mistake, she will test you. Not to ruin you, not to be cruel, but because her subconscious demands an answer. It needs to know if you are still the man she believed you were in the beginning, or if you've already softened into something weaker. The moment you stop being a storm and start being her shelter is the moment the testing begins. Comfort feels harmless. It feels safe. It feels like the reward you earned after the chase. But in reality, comfort is the silent killer of attraction. It doesn't strike fast. It creeps in slowly. And one day, you wake up realizing the very thing you thought was keeping her close has actually been pushing her away. Remember when you had a mission outside of her? When your goals, your passions, your hobbies came first. That was the version of you she fell for. That was the man she respected. She admired the fire in you, the man building something bigger than the relationship itself. But comfort whispers, "Relax, you've already won." And men listen. They stop chasing excellence. They skip the gym. They stop seeing their friends. They drop the hobbies that gave them identity. Why? Because they want to keep her happy. Because they think love means sacrifice. At first, she might smile. She might say she loves the attention. But deep inside, respect begins to erode. Because what her subconscious sees is not devotion, it's weakness. The man who once stood firm on his own 2 feet is now orbiting around her. And her instincts scream the truth: this man is losing himself. That's why so many men gain weight after marriage. That's why their ambition fades. That's why the fire in their eyes dies. They believe they're building stability, but what they're really doing is killing attraction. Because no woman dreams of waking up next to a man who abandoned his mission just to make her happy. Here's the paradox. The more your life revolves around her, the less she values you. The more you compromise to avoid conflict, the more she feels contempt. The more you try to prove your love, the more she doubts if you're even the man she fell for. And once she senses that weakness, her instincts don't ignore it. They double down. She pushes harder. She pokes deeper. She starts testing relentlessly, not because she enjoys drama, but because she needs to know. She needs proof that the man she once respected hasn't completely disappeared into the comfort he thought was love. In her subconscious, there are only two kinds of men: strong or weak, leaders or followers. There is no middle ground, no gray zone. You're either one or the other. And every moment she spends with you, every reaction you give her, is evidence she uses to decide which category you belong to. The strong man doesn't live for her approval. He lives by his own frame. He knows who he is. He has standards. He has boundaries. And he enforces them without apology. He's not afraid of conflict. He's not afraid of her emotions. And most of all, he's not afraid of losing her, because his life is already full. He doesn't need her to complete him. She adds to his world. But she isn't his world. When she tests him, he doesn't even flinch. He doesn't have to act strong. He simply is strong. Holding frame is natural for him. The weak man is the opposite. He breathes for her approval. He's terrified of her disapproval. He bends his values, breaks his own rules, and reshapes his identity, all in the name of keeping her happy. He calls it love. He calls it sacrifice. But what it really is fear. And every time he chooses her comfort over his integrity, her subconscious records it. This man is weak. Here's the brutal part: once she places you in the weak category, it's almost impossible to climb back out. She might still say she loves you. She might stay. But inside, something shifts. Respect dies first. Then attraction fades. Then desire disappears. Until one day, she's still there physically but emotionally. She's already gone. Men lie to themselves at this stage. They think, if I give her more, if I sacrifice harder, if I just prove my love, she'll see it. But she doesn't see love. She sees weakness. She feels your dependence. And instinctively, she knows the truth. A man who can't lead himself can never lead her. In her world, you're either the man she leans on or the man she leans away from. And once she starts leaning away, getting her back is nearly impossible. You don't need theory to see this play out. It happens all around us. Men who once stood tall, confident, respected, slowly collapsing into smaller versions of themselves. And the women who once adored them, now looking at them with silent contempt. I had a colleague who started marriage the right way. He had balance. He trained 5 days a week. He saw his friends. He kept hobbies that gave him energy. His wife didn't always love it, but she respected it. When she complained, he calmly said, "This matters to me. I'm not giving it up." And that firmness kept her respect alive. But complaints grow over time. You care more about the gym than me. Your friends matter more than this marriage. At first, he held his ground. Then he began to bend. 5 gym days dropped to 3, then to 2, then to only when she's busy. Friends disappeared. Hobbies faded. Within 2 years, he had gained 30 pounds, lost his spark, and looked like a stranger. But the real problem wasn't the weight, it was the weakness. The man who once had drive, discipline, and frame was gone. And his wife, she didn't admire the sacrifices. She despised them, not consciously, not because she wanted him to fail, but because her instincts told her the truth. He had surrendered his strength. Another friend was a powerhouse in business. In the office, he made million-dollar decisions without hesitation. At home, he was terrified of his wife. She'd start fights, pack her bags, threaten to leave, and every time he panicked. Flowers, gifts, desperate promises. She always came back, but only to start the cycle again. After 3 years, he was unrecognizable. Once decisive, now paralyzed. He couldn't even pick a TV show without her approval. And the ending she left anyway. Not for someone richer, not for someone with higher status, but for a trainer at her gym. On paper, he had less of everything, less money, less success, less status. But he had the one thing my friend lost: frame. He didn't bend, he didn't chase, he didn't need her approval, and her instincts responded instantly. Strength recognized, weakness rejected. This isn't rare, it's reality, and most men never see it coming until it's already too late. Here's the hardest truth for most men to swallow: the more attached you become, the weaker you look in her eyes. You've been told the opposite your whole life. Happy wife, happy life. Put her first. Sacrifice everything to prove your love. But in reality, that's not how attraction works. Think about when she wanted you the most. Back then, you weren't desperate. You weren't checking your phone every 2 minutes to see if she texted. You weren't rearranging your life to please her. You had independence. You had options. You were perfectly fine with or without her. That freedom is what made you magnetic. It's what pulled her toward you. Now fast forward. You can't imagine life without her. You crave her validation to feel good about yourself. If she's happy, you're happy. If she's upset, you're miserable. Her mood dictates your mood, and you tell yourself that's love. But what it really is dependence. And dependence always looks like weakness. She feels it even if she can't explain it. She smells it the way animals smell fear. And once she senses that weakness, her instincts shift into overdrive. She begins testing harder, not because she hates you, not because she wants to hurt you, but because her subconscious demands proof. Proof that she didn't choose a man who will crumble when it matters. For thousands of years, a woman's survival depended on choosing a strong man. Weak men meant danger for her and her children. That survival code hasn't gone anywhere. Modern life feels safer, but her biology doesn't care. It still checks, it still probes, it still asks, is this man strong enough to hold the line? And here's the paradox: the more you give up to keep her, the less she wants to stay. The more you chase her approval, the more respect dies. The more you sacrifice to avoid conflict, the more contempt grows. Attachment doesn't equal strength. To her subconscious, attachment screams weakness. A man who needs her the most is always the man she respects the least. Once her subconscious picks up the scent of weakness, the testing begins. And it rarely starts big. It creeps in quietly, disguised as little things you could easily dismiss. She questions a small decision. She gives you attitude over something trivial. She pulls back affection for no clear reason. You think it's nothing. You brush it off. But that's where most men fail because they miss the bigger picture. What she's doing isn't random. It's not about the dirty dishes. It's not about how you loaded the dishwasher or the way you said a word. Those are just masks. The real question behind every test is the same. Will you hold your frame, or will you bend when she pulls back affection? Do you panic and chase when she challenges a boundary? Do you enforce it, or do you let it slide when she creates drama out of thin air? Do you remain calm, or do you get dragged into her emotional storm? Most men think logic will save them. They try to explain, to reason, to fix the problem. But logic never solves a test, because the test isn't about reason, it's about strength. Her subconscious isn't asking, does he have the right answer? It's asking, is he strong enough to stay centered even when I push? Think about history. A woman's survival depended on choosing a man who wouldn't collapse when the world turned chaotic. That instinct still runs in her blood. So when you fold too quickly, when you apologize just to avoid conflict, when you chase too desperately, you don't solve the issue. You confirm her suspicion you're weak. And once she starts doubting your strength, the tests escalate. They get sharper, louder, more dramatic. She might threaten to leave. She might flirt with someone else just to see your reaction. She might withdraw completely to check if you'll beg her back. And if you do, her respect slips even further. Here's the truth: she doesn't test to destroy you. She tests to measure you, to confirm if you are still the man she believed you were, or if you've already lost your edge. Pass the test, and her respect grows. Fail, and it dies a little more. And once respect is gone, love is never far behind. Here's how the cycle usually begins. She provokes, she pushes, she creates chaos out of nothing, and you wanting peace, wanting harmony, desperate to keep her happy, fold. You compromise. You give in. You think you're solving the problem. But in her eyes, you just failed the test. What happens next is predictable. Her respect dips lower. She pulls back. Maybe she leaves the room. Maybe she shuts down emotionally. Maybe she storms off to her mom's house or her friend's place. And you panic. You chase. You apologize. You beg her to come back. You promise to change. You promise to do better. She returns, but not because you won her over. She comes back because the test isn't finished. Her subconscious needs to know how much control she really has over you. So the loop starts again. She provokes. You fold. She loses more respect. She leaves. You chase. You beg. She comes back. And every cycle strips away another piece of your dignity. I've watched strong, successful men fall into this loop until they're unrecognizable. Men who lead companies. Men who command respect in the world, reduced to shells of themselves at home. One friend of mine was fearless in business. He made million-dollar decisions with ease. But with his wife, he crumbled. Every fight ended with him begging for her forgiveness, showering her with gifts, desperate to buy back her affection. After 3 years, he was broken. Panic attacks, constant anxiety, walking on eggshells just to avoid triggering her. The same man who once stood tall in boardrooms was now afraid to choose a TV show without asking her first. And how did it end? She left anyway. She walked away from the man who gave her everything straight into the arms of another man. Not richer, not more successful, not more powerful on paper, but stronger in presence. A man who didn't beg, a man who didn't fold, a man who held his frame no matter what. That's the loop of the weak man. She tests, he fails. She loses respect. He chases. She returns. And then it repeats, until one day, she doesn't come back at all. So how do you escape this trap? How do you break the cycle that's been draining you, piece by piece, without you even realizing it? The answer isn't more gifts. It isn't longer speeches. It isn't proving harder how much you care. That's what weak men try. And weak men fail. Because weakness disguised as love is still weakness. The way out is simple, but it's not easy. You need to show strength, not through anger, not through threats, but through boundaries. Real boundaries. The kind that don't come from fear, but from self-respect. When she creates drama, you don't yell, you don't argue, you don't try to explain her into calmness. You stay calm yourself. You say, when you're ready to talk like adults, "I'll be here." Then you walk away. Not in rage, not slamming doors, just steady. And then you live your life. You go to the gym. You see your friends. You work on your goals. You prove, not with words, but with action, that you won't be pulled into chaos. If she threatens to leave, you don't panic. You don't beg. You don't collapse. You tell her. That's your choice. I don't hold people who don't want to stay. And you mean it. No bluff. No games. If she disrespects you in public, you don't sit there and take it. You remove yourself. If she violates a boundary, you enforce consequences. No shouting, no lectures, just consistent action. This is where most men fail. They think women want a man they can control. But deep down, what she actually wants is a man she can trust. And trust only exists when she knows you won't fold under pressure, not even hers. The cycle breaks the moment you stop clinging to her approval and start holding on to yourself. That doesn't mean you stop loving her. It means you stop needing her. And when you no longer need her to feel whole, something incredible happens. The tests lose their power. They shrink from storms into sparks. Because once her subconscious sees you're unshakable, it already knows the answer: you're strong. Here's the paradox that flips the entire game. The less you need her, the more she needs you. The less you chase, the more she clings. The moment you are truly strong enough to walk away, that's the moment she fights the hardest to stay. And this isn't manipulation. This isn't some trick. This is how attraction works at the deepest level of her biology. Every woman will test her man. Not because she's cruel, not because she wants to break you, but because her instincts demand it. She has to know if you're solid when life gets heavy. She has to know if you're still the man she admired in the beginning, or if you've already surrendered your strength to comfort. Fail enough times, and her respect is gone forever. And once respect dies, love is next. That's why strength can't be an act. You can't fake it. You can't wear it like a mask when it's convenient. Because her subconscious always knows. She can feel it in your energy. She can see it in your eyes. But when you're whole without her, when your life has purpose, drive, and direction outside of her, that's when everything changes. You can love her deeply without being owned by her. You can give without needing anything in return. You can stand strong, and she'll want to stand beside you. So here's the truth she will test you. The only question is, will you pass or will you fail? If this opened your eyes, drop a comment below. Tell me your story. Share this with a brother who needs to hear it. And hit that subscribe so you never miss the next one. This is just the beginning.